City Council public hearing now come to order. Madam Clerk?
Councilors Kadim,
Here.
Kamara,
Here.
Dion,
Here.
Kilby, Lee,
Here.
Pelletier,
Here.
Pereira, Reposo,
Here.
and President La Liberty LeBeau.
Here. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Item 1 is the secondhand articles store. Do you have a motion to open the hearing?
Motion open.
Second.
Motion to open the hearing made by Councilor Reposo, seconded by Council Vice President Dion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mallory Rosa, DBA Black Brick Market, 415 Warren Street, Fall River, for permission to operate and maintain a secondhand article store located at 575 Globe Street, which is clothes, household items, decorations, and toys to be sold. Are there any proponents that are wishing to speak? Any proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents wishing to speak? Seeing none, do we have a motion to close?
Second.
Motion to close the hearing made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Reposo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Item 2 is the curb removals. We have a motion to open.
Motion open.
Second.
Motion to open the hearing made by Councilor Reposo, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 2 is Joaquin Fernandez, 4380 North Main Street, apartment 402, for the removal of curbing as follows. 178 Lake Ave, the petitioner has constructed a horseshoe driveway connecting a 12.7-foot curb cut opening to a 12.4-foot curb opening. The total street opening exceeds the allowed 16 feet. As on-street parking is not relied upon in this neighborhood, the city engineer has no objection to this request. Are there any proponents who would like to speak? If you'd like to come down to the... Just to the table, and if you give your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Joachim Fernandez. I'm the owner of the property at 178 Lake Avenue. I'd like to request that the council vote favorably on this. I built it as a horseshoe because of the positioning of the garage doors. It would allow me to more easily back out of the garage and then drive forward onto the street rather than backing around onto the street, around the curved area. Lake Avenue does not have a problem with having a need for on-street parking, as that neighborhood, pretty much everyone has driveways and garages that they park in. So I would hope for a favorable vote on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other proponents wishing to speak? Any other proponents? Any opponents wishing to speak? Seeing none?
Motion to close.
Motion to close the hearing made by Councilor Reposo,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Pelletier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Item 3 is another curb cut.
Motion open. Second.
Motion to open the hearing made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Reposo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carl, let me say this wrong. Cabuccio, 1297 North Main Street, for the removal of curbing as follows. Property is 1297 North Main Street. The petitioner has an existing 13-foot driveway on the northerly side of the property and is requesting removal of 16 feet for an additional driveway on the south side of the property for a total of 29 feet. The new opening will access a proposed new parking area. If allowed, the applicant shall install an entirely new concrete driveway apron within the right-of-way with appropriate ramps on each side and repair all sidewalks, roadway, and curbing affected by this construction. Are there any proponents wishing to speak? Any proponents? Seeing none. Any opponents wishing to speak? Any opponents? Seeing none.
Motion to close.
Motion to close the
Second.
hearing made by Councilor Reposo, seconded by Councilor Kilby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Item 4 is another curb cut removal.
Motion open.
Motion open made by Councilor Reposo,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Kilby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 4 is Barrett Castro, 554 Reading Street, for the removal of curbing as follows. The petitioner has an existing 12-foot driveway and is requesting removal of an additional 14 feet to the north side of the existing driveway for a total opening of 26 feet. This will require the removal of a large tree within the right-of-way. The expanded opening will align with the existing driveway on the private property it would serve. If allowed, the applicant shall install an entirely new concrete driveway apron within the right-of-way with appropriate ramps on each side and repair all sidewalks, curbing, and roadway affected by this construction. There are any proponents wishing to speak? Any proponents? Any opponents wishing to speak? Seeing none?
Motion to close.
Motion to close the hearing made by Counselor Reposo,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Kilby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Item 6 is a curb cut.
Motion to open.
Motion to open the hearing made by Counselor Reposo,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Pelletier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Michael Mata, 388 Quincy Street, for the removal of curbing as follows. 388 Quincy Street, the petitioner has an existing 16-foot opening that provides access to an existing garage and concrete driveway area. The applicant proposes to extend the existing curb opening an additional 13 feet to the north for a total opening of 29 feet. The new driveway would be constructed in an area that is currently lawn and will connect to an existing concrete driveway. Any proponents wishing to speak? Any opponents wishing to speak? Seeing none?
Motion to close.
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Yep.
Motion to close made by Counselor Reposo, seconded by Counselor Kilby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yes. Yes, Barrett Castro has two separate.
Has two separate ones, thank you.
Applications.
Do we have a motion to open?
Motion to open.
Second.
Motion to open made by Counselor Vice President Dion, seconded by Counselor Reposo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So I just did 5, so I need to do 4.
You did
Or no,
4.
They
You
both
did
were
4.
trees.
5.
I did 4.
Yes.
Barrett Castro, 554 Reading Street, for the removal of curbing as follows. This time it's on Valentine Street side. Petitioner has an existing 11.5-foot driveway and is requesting removal of an additional 8.5 feet to the west side of the existing driveway for a total opening not to exceed 20 feet. This will require the removal of a large tree within the right-of-way. The expanded opening will align with the existing driveway of the private property it would serve. If allowed, the applicant shall install an entirely new concrete driveway apron within the right-of-way with appropriate ramps on each side and repair all sidewalks, curbing, and roadway affected by this construction. Any proponents wishing to speak? Seeing none. Any opponents wishing to speak? Seeing none.
Motion to close.
I'm sorry. Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Camara.
What's the address on Valentine Street? There's no address.
Madam Clerk.
Hold on. It's actually a corner lot, Counselor. So
Reading and Valentine.
so his address is 554 Reading, but it's a horseshoe driveway.
I get it. So he's doing both.
So
Reading
one
and
is on the
Valentine.
Valentine Street side and one is on the Reading Street
Right,
side.
thank you.
You yield, Counselor?
Yes, thank you.
Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Vice President Dion.
So on one side of his property, he wants a 26-foot opening, and on the other side of the corner, he wants a 20-foot opening.
In
It's gonna go
total,
from Reading to Valentine,
yes.
and it requires 26 feet on one side and 20 feet on the other? That seems like a lot of driveway. All right, with that, I yield.
Anything further from the council? Thank you.
Motion to close.
Motion to close the hearing made by Counselor Kilby,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Reposo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Can I just, on that point,
Sorry.
just a point of clarification, it's a
Counselor
total
Seaman?
of 20 feet, right?
Right.
No,
Is that?
on Valentine.
On
but
one side.
26 feet on
2 are
Reading.
his.
Reading's in the corner. 26 above the lot.
Oh, I gotcha.
It's already existing on both sides. He's widening both sides. Do you yield, Counselor?
I do.
Counselor in seat 5, Counselor Lee.
In full council, when it comes up, if a councilor wants to make a referral, would Public Works be the appropriate? Okay, thank you, I yield.
Anything further? Item 7, Bill Ponte, 500 State Ave, for the removal of curbing as follows. Do we have a motion to open?
Motion to open.
Motion to open the hearing made by Counselor Reposo.
Second.
Seconded by Counsel Vice President Dion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. 500 State Ave. The petitioner has an existing 26-foot curb opening and driveway to the east of the existing multifamily dwelling that provides access to an existing garage and provides off-street parking. The applicant is proposing the removal of 16 feet of granite curb to create an additional driveway to the west of the existing structure. This new driveway would be constructed in an area that is currently lawn. The total curb opening for the parcel would be 42 feet. Any proponents wishing to speak? Any proponents? Any opponents wishing to speak? Seeing none?
Motion to close.
Second.
Motion to close the hearing made by Counselor Reposo, seconded by Counselor Pelletier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Item 8 is a curb cut.
Motion open.
Motion to open the hearing made by Counselor Reposo, seconded by Counselor Pelletier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 8, Kenneth Pereira, 515 Smith Street, for the removal of curbing as follows. At 515 Smith Street, the petitioner has an existing 16-foot driveway and is requesting removal of another 6 feet to the south side of the existing opening for a total opening of 22 feet. The expanded opening will align with the existing driveway on the private property it would serve. If allowed, the applicant shall install an entirely new concrete driveway apron within the right-of-way with appropriate ramps on each side and repair all sidewalks, roadway, and curbing affected by this construction. Are there any proponents wishing to speak? Any opponents wishing to speak? Do you have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Motion to close made by Counselor Reposo, seconded by Counselor Kilby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Item 9 is a curb cut.
Motion to open.
Motion to open the hearing made by Counselor Reposo,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Kilby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 9, Paulo Amaral, 110 Andrews Street. The address is 110 Andrews Street. The petitioner has an existing 20-foot driveway on the northerly side of the property and is requesting removal of 10 feet for an additional driveway on the south side of the property for a total of 30 feet. The new opening will access a proposed new parking area. If allowed, the applicant shall install an entirely new concrete driveway apron within the right-of-way with appropriate ramps on each side and repair all sidewalks, roadway, and curbing affected by this construction. Are there any proponents wishing to speak? Any opponents wishing to speak? Seeing none?
Motion to close.
Motion to close the hearing made by Counselor Reposo,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Pelletier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Do we have a motion to adjourn
Motion
public
to
hearing?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn made by Counselor Reposo, seconded by Counsel Vice President Dion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. City Council Committee on Finance will now come to order. Madam Clerk?
Councilors Kadim,
Council Kadim? Council Kadim?
Here.
Kamara,
Here.
Dion,
Here.
Kilby,
Here.
Lee,
Here.
Pelletier,
Here.
Pereira, Reposo,
Yep.
and President La Liberty LeBeau.
Here. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Item 1 is citizens' input. We have one person signed up to speak, Nelson Vasquez, 210 Sunset Hill. The subject is Durfee tax payment. And when you're ready, you have 3 minutes.
Madam President, I have a request that my time start after I play this video because it's pretty informative for the public at large in regards to this topic.
Motion to waive the rules.
Motion to waive the rules made by Counselor Lee,
Point of clarification, how long is the video?
A little after a minute.
Excuse me,
A little after a minute.
a little after a minute?
Yep.
I don't know what 12 means.
Motion to waive the rules made by
No.
Counsel Lee.
It's straight to the point.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counsel Vice President Dion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Go ahead.
Over a month, Fall River taxpayers will vote on whether to move forward to build a new Durfee High School.
The plan to replace the 40-year-old building has been in the works for a few years now, but recent flooding at the school has further illustrated how much a new building is truly needed. Eyewitness News reporter Michaela McDonald has more, new at 5:30.
A special election is scheduled for March 6th to vote on the proposed new school. Today we spoke with Fall River's mayor about the proposal. Mayor Jazel Correa says Fall River is ready for a new Durfee High School.
The school is literally falling apart. You walk the halls of Durfee High School, and it's, again, outlasted its useful life.
You may remember seeing this video on Eyewitness News a few weeks ago. An estimated 50,000 gallons of water leaked out from a burst pipe in Durfee High School. Aging pipes were blamed for the mess. Besides the flood, school officials say they've also had problems with the roof and windows.
We had a flood. That was just such an unfortunate event. That was obviously unpredictable, but just continues to show the aging infrastructure that's there. And that flood really destroyed many of the science classrooms.
Here are the renderings for the proposed new $263 million high school, posted on the district's website. The mayor says the Commonwealth would pay for almost 65% of the cost, leaving a remaining balance of roughly $95 million for Fall River.
It's just going to be a state-of-the-art school with all the bells and whistles, but still at an affordable price for our community. While other communities are looking for tax overrides that will cost taxpayers, $200, $300 a year, our school, we're looking to hopefully be at $100 or less a year. That's our target. Well, we might be at $110, $120 a year annually as a payment for the school. But
we're told there will be multiple special city council meetings to provide more information about this project to the public. If approved, construction could start as early as next year. Michaela McDonald, Eyewitness News.
Now, as promised, I provided an email of the exact number that the city approved before the vote took place back in 2018. So, 2 articles. And still, Paul has not came down with that number. And from what I see is that a budget has put together, and to my recollection, he still has not came down here with that number that he said he was bound to do. He has a fiduciary obligation to show this body that number. He has a duty to do it, and he still has not done that, which is appalling because he campaigned on transparency. So here's the thing. The jig is up with his games of stonewalling this council. There's a disrespect to this council to hold it up. If this mayor does not come down with that number and continues to procrastinate on behalf of the citizens of accountability for responsible government, there will be legal action taken against him. Because I find it appalling that the people don't know what they're going to be paying towards Durfee. They have a right to know. And I think it's upon this council to take that stand and to force him to come down with that number that's on his desk. It's not like he can't find it. He said it's on his desk. So it's upon this council to do his job. And I have respect for all of you. I really do. But the people need to know what that number is. So, Paul, it's up to you. Are you going to force the taxpayers to pay for a lawsuit because you don't want to do your job? Because we all know what it's about. The number is more than $115 to give out more of his friends for pay raises. That's not what they voted for. So I hope that this council will do his job. But in the end, it's up to Paul to do his job, to come down here. So the clock is ticking, and we have a deadline in mind. So I really hope that he will do his job and live up to his word, because your word is bond in this world. And especially telling the people how much they're supposed to pay. That's their money. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have one item that was submitted, which I will read for Madam Clerk. Fall River City Council, I have several issues with the agenda for tonight's meeting. First, I want to start by stating the open meeting law complaint listed on the agenda as item 31 was not issued against Fall River City Council. It was issued to the Subcommittee on Ordinances and Legislation. It has to be dealt with by the subcommittee in compliance with the determination letter 2022-85 on April 22nd. I strongly recommend the full council not deal with this complaint at all. If you all do, that would be an intentional violation of the open meeting law, and a formal complaint will be issued tomorrow. Next issue deals with agenda item number 9, designating Granite Street as a one-way from Purchase Street to Rock Street. This makes no sense at all. When a customer such as I goes to use the drive-up banking options at Mechanics Bank, we can currently exit the bank by turning right or left on Granite Street. I personally choose to turn left, as it allows me to then turn on Purchase Street either right or left. I have the option of turning right and proceeding to High Street to return to my residence on Robeson Street with expediency. I also have chosen to turn left on Purchase, take a right on Bedford, and then proceed to either South Main, North Main, or Milliken Boulevard. This making Granite Street one-way forces bank customers to have to take a right, get stuck at a new stop sign, also proposed tonight, and then be forced to take a right onto Rock and having to deal with the traffic light at Rock and Bedford. Next issue is the reappointment to the Park Board of Victor Farias and Jeffrey Sylvia. I have several issues with these appointments. First off, they are both city employees, and the charter does not allow for them to hold both city employment and be members of the Park Board. Several years ago, there were 5 appointments made to comply with state law, a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5-year appointment, so that one seat would expire every year and be appointed for the 5-year term required by state law. I should also point out that the members of the Park Board are in violation of state laws, since the members have never been designated as special municipal employees, and Amber Burns and Joseph De Silva are also both employees of the Fall River Housing Authority. How soon we forget that things were done to get back into compliance, and then we violate state laws again. Last week, I attended a webinar training on the open meeting law, and one issue with that was raised with the availability of resumes of candidates for appointment to positions. The open meeting law has stated that these resumes are public records, open the open meeting law. None of the candidates for appointment resumes are included in the agenda packet. Item 1B has an appointment to the Board Registrar of Voters. There is not listed on the agenda what political party this person is registered to, nor how long they have been registered as a Democrat or Republican. Remember, you can only have 2 of each party, and they have to have been a registered member of the party for over a year to be qualified for this appointment. Also, the resume has also not been provided, another open meeting law violation. Sincerely yours, Patrick Higgins. Anything further, Madam Clerk?
No, Madam President.
Counselor in seat 3, Council Vice President Dion.
Yeah, the only comment I would like to make is I have to agree to a point with Mr. Higgins in this case in terms of Granite Street. There wasn't information in the packet. I'm just going to speak for myself. You know, when you make mistakes, you own up to your mistakes. I should have paid attention and known exactly what the situation was, because in hindsight, I don't have an issue with that being a one-way. I think it should be a one-way in the other direction. It should be westerly, not easterly, because it is true. It does give you more options. I think it's a better traffic flow, and I think it's going to create bottlenecks, and I don't think it was the best decision. And had I thought of that in advance, I would have voted opposite what I did. So just to set the record straight, and with that, I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Anything further? Seeing none.
Council President,
Counselor in seat 6.
you know, I heard a few grumbles about this as well. Why don't we just send them back to traffic and see if it's the right thing to do? Would that be,
When we get to it, we can, Counselor. That is in full council under ordinances and legislation under the committee reports. We can discuss it and decide what to do with it then.
I have trouble hearing you, my dear.
It's in
Young
full
lady.
council.
Oh.
Under committee reports for ordinances.
Yeah.
We can discuss and decide where we'd like to send it at that point, if it's the will of the council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Seeing nothing. Item 2 is a resolution. the administration consider implementing the use of body cameras by the Fall River Police Department. This was referred January 18th, 2022. If the city administrator and Police Chief Garvin would come down to the table, please. The resolution is, whereas the city of Fall River has received multiple requests from citizens to increase and improve transparency regarding public safety, now therefore be it resolved that the administration consider implementing the use of body cameras by the Fall River Police Department to increase transparency and to further protect both the citizens and police officers in any disputes. This was filed by Councilor Lee. Chief Garvin, thank you for being here.
Good evening. Thank you for the invitation.
If you wouldn't mind giving the council an update on where this process is.
So as you are all aware, we received the grant back in December for $201,000 for a body-worn camera program that we know costs approximately $1.3 million. In accepting that grant prior to getting the award, we have to have an agreement with superiors, an agreement with patrol, and we have to have a full policy in place. At this point, we're still in negotiations. We do have a 14-page document for a policy, and it's just a matter of getting the finalities of these matters together. But we're a lot closer to the end than we were at the beginning.
Councilor in seat 5, the sponsor of the resolution, Councilor Lee.
Yes. The only question I have, you're very limited in what you can explain to us, Chief.
I'm sorry, Councilor Kilby. Councilor Lee was first. I'll
okay,
have you
I'm sorry.
second.
Thanks. No, I just wanted to say thank you for updating us on the situation here, because when this was talked about in January, and you and I went to a meeting recently where one
correct.
of the former councilors was there, and he happened to mention that this was going to sit in ordinance for a long period of time, or sit in subcommittee for a long period of time. But I really appreciate the fact that you've been active on this. And my only question right now is that pilot program that was talked about over the past few years. Is that a part of this process right now?
So you're absolutely correct, Councilor, it is. So where we are right now as far as going back, we do have all the equipment in-house for the pilot program. We've also renegotiated with Axon, which was going to charge anywhere between $14,000 to $40,000 for the pilot program. We've successfully renegotiated with them where they're going to do it to give it to us for free. At this point, we still have to go through negotiations, but we're ready to go forward with the pilot program. I believe what we're waiting for is for the superior officers to have their contract ratified. When that happens, then we'll start the pilot program.
So regarding the pilot program specifically, there is no more disputing it. It's just more of a process now.
Well, we still have to finalize the pilot program policy, which is very close to the wider program. But I think we're really close. And in speaking to the union president the other day, Jonathan Ferreira, we both agreed that we are really close with the policy. So I'm not really concerned at this point.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I yield.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor in seat 4, Councilor Kilby.
I apologize, Councilor Lee. Thank you for the resolution.
Thank you.
I'm just, by way of comment, you're already very limited what you can explain to us at this point because you're having collective bargaining, so.
That's
I
true.
think we all understand that. The only question I have, the pilot program, how much is that going to cost us?
The pilot program is going to cost us $0. We renegotiated with Axon. That was going to be anywhere between $15,000 to $40,000, depending on the length of the program. They've agreed to do it for nothing in that renegotiation that we had with them.
Okay, great. That's all the question.
Thank you. Councilor in seat 2, Councilor Camara.
Thank you, Chief. You mentioned there was $1.3 million for the program.
Correct.
What does that include? Just purchasing the cameras, or?
That's everything. Soup to nuts, pretty much. That's the docking stations, that's the cameras themselves, that's the licenses, and the data storage as well.
One-time cost? What about annual costs after that to maintain it?
After the 5 years, we renegotiate with Axon. Now we're rolling into data storage. Right now, we're going into data storage with $0. But as you know,
5 years?
after 5 years, correct.
So zero data, we're going to data storage 0 for 5 years?
No, going into it new, we have $0 data storage.
Okay.
In 5 years, we'll have 5 years of data storage.
Correct.
So that's going to be a little bit of a negotiation.
Has there been any numbers thrown out as to what that cost was going to be?
No.
Okay. All right, with that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, I just have one question. Once everyone is in agreement, how long will it take for you to implement the program?
Once I have the necessary pieces in place, I plan on rolling out the program the next day.
Okay. Counselor in seat one, Counselor Kadim.
Thank you, Chief, for coming down. Appreciate that this is a sensitive topic since we are in negotiations. However, if I touch on anything that is obviously collective bargaining, just throw something at me. I'll duck out of the way.
No
But,
problem.
in terms of the pilot, how many officers do we think are going to be doing the actual pilot itself?
Right now, I believe we're at 7.
7.
7 police officers, correct.
Okay. So that's all we have for equipment is just, obviously there's going to be extras maybe, but
Correct.
just enough to cover for 7. So do we anticipate, assuming that the pilot program itself is successful, and obviously we buy into it, what the associated cost would be after the 5 years?
That's a difficult pin to place there because there are going to be all kinds of different anomalies here. How many people are in the market to get the cameras?
Yep.
I mean, right now, Massachusetts, I think we only have 10% of the communities that have body-worn cameras in their departments. So as this goes on, depending on where that number is, depending on the market share for Axon, it could be, off the charts. It could be reasonable. Really difficult for me to say.
And I know somewhat to the point of the policy, some of it obviously has to be negotiated or at least impact bargain with the unions. But the policy you're putting in, is it specifically for the pilot, or is it something that could carry over to the actual camera program?
Yeah, I mean, it's for the pilot program right now, but it's going to roll right into the larger program. It's all the same, but really the difficulty is you're negotiating a policy, in theory. So whenever you're negotiating a policy, it's easier if I can dictate to my members, what the rules are. But now we have to negotiate, so that'll continue on. Right now, we're trying to create a policy with a system that we're really not all too familiar with. So I suspect that we'll negotiate a policy just enough to get the pilot program through. I'm sure that in a larger context for the negotiation, they'll sign off. But really, at the end of the day, it's going to be a lot of cooperation between the administration and the patrol union and the superior officers union to change that policy as we go on, because it is a living, breathing document, and we can't forecast every single issue that we're going to come into. So we'll try to do our best to hit all the corners and to hit the highlights, but I know going forward that there are going to be other issues that we're going to have to go back and say, hey, we really need this in the policy.
So just in terms of and if you haven't gotten this far, that's fine, but I'm just curious in terms of the actual footage in the recording piece. Are we looking to have it turned on manually? Is it going to be on 24/7? Just curious in terms of that.
That's
because
all.
then
That's all part of the bargain.
Your 5-year
I
data.
can't discuss that.
Your 5-year data storage is going to be.
Correct.
Pretty
Philosophically, if we were to have a body camera system where we were recording 24/7, that would be an incredible amount. But we
Yeah,
do,
and
we
I
do
just
have, it does have the ability to purge, non-necessary pieces.
Right, and then I guess I would just caution, and I'm sure you're having those conversations, but I mean, when an officer goes into somebody's home for a medical response, obviously there's HIPAA. You're not supposed to be really technically recording for that, so in terms of documentation, so I was just curious as to where we were going with that and costs associated with it for the program itself. I know at some point with this whole police reform law and post coming down that it most likely going to be mandatory for all the communities, so I appreciate and applaud you trying to get ahead of it. Just really trying to identify some anticipated costs, 5 years out in terms of what we're looking at.
Yeah,
So-
that is the, the anticipated scary part of this is that in 5 years, where will we be, and how much will we be, I guess, held at hostage for continuing a body-worn camera program. I mean, that's really, just like anything else. Once you go with it, it's almost like you get tied to it. But we'll see where we are, and maybe we'll be renegotiating with another company. That all depends on where the system goes.
Well, I don't envy you. You got a lot on your plate, body worn cameras, ATVs, and everything else that we're hearing about. So keep up the good work, and if there's anything that you need in terms of the body worn cameras and funding of that, I think it makes sense in terms of making sure our officers are protected, and then also the general public. So I think it's a win-win across the board for full transparency. So with that, I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor in seat 3, Council Vice President Dion.
Good evening, thank you.
Good evening.
In terms of the policy, do we have any other localities or municipalities that you've been able to attempt to model our policy after, or are we in the forefront of this?
Generally speaking, I want to be careful here, but generally speaking, there are large national organizations that have model policies. And for something like this, we tend to take a larger chunk of what they have, but then we try to, just go through it a little bit and try to make it a little bit more comfortable for our locale.
On the administrative side, moving forward, when this comes to fruition, moving forward beyond the 5 years, do you see areas that we can tap into to help defray the cost of this moving forward?
So I think what Councilor Kadim said about the likelihood that very soon, in the next several years, this is going to become mandatory for every police force in the Commonwealth is a true statement. And I think along with that comes the recognition that there's a significant expense tied to it. So I wouldn't be too surprised if there weren't grants and other opportunities for funding that come from that, as well as the potential reduction in cost that comes with volume. So right now you have a reasonably fledgling industry in Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I think 5 years from now, that's going to be a very different scenario, where I think you're going to have possibly more players, more competitive prices, and at the end of the day, this is different than any of the discretionary things we might talk about. This is going to become the cost of doing business. This is going to become the professional norm in policing. It is essential to protect the officers, and it is essential to protect the public. And so I think when you add all those things together, that this isn't a luxury, this is not a nice to have, this is a have to have. What you're going to see is ultimately something that has to become more affordable and accessible for every community. So I believe that's what's going to happen.
And I'm sure it's going to become much larger than 7 people on a shift that'll have to have the body cams as well. I would assume it would become either a larger percentage or across the entire complement.
Correct. It'll be a comprehensive policy and program.
Okay. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from Counselor in seat 6 or 8 before I recognize Counselor in seat 6 again? Counselor in seat 6? I'm sorry. Before I recognize Counselor Lee again. Counselor in seat 6?
You get me confused. You're looking
I got
that way.
confused myself, Counselor. I'm sorry. I'm looking right at you.
I know we're both chubby, but I'm seat number 6.
I see the number.
What I wanted to ask has been answered a little bit. Is every patrolman going to have a camera?
Correct.
Okay. Is it their camera personally? You get the tasers, they take them home, right?
Negative, sir.
They don't take them home,
Correct.
okay? So the cameras,
The cameras will be assigned to each individual police officer.
Yeah.
Part of the license and part of the intel side of this is that each device will have its own profile. So you'd have to go in and assign through the serial number to a particular police officer.
all right, so I got a camera assigned to me, I go home for the day.
Correct.
Where's the camera go?
Well, we haven't worked out all those matters. Some of them can be there at the station, they can be stored at the station, or some of them can be brought with the police officer depending on what his day is going to be, whether he's working details or what have you for that evening. But it's theirs. We're assigning, it's a piece of their equipment for, going forward, so they can bring it home.
You expect them to wear it on details as well? Is that what you're saying?
That will be in the policy. That will be negotiated if we decide to do that.
No, they got the higher-ups, deputy chief, and everybody that's in the police station, they don't get one, do they?
Well, any police officer who's going to be on the street enforcing the law, they will be wearing a camera.
Okay, we got Vice that go out. I guess they got a camera all the time, but they hire up. I mean, they get one as well.
That would all be subject to bargaining of the policy.
Yeah. All right, I guess it could save us some money. It'll cost us a lot of money with everything that's going on throughout the world, throughout the United States. It's always somebody getting shot, something, done something wrong. It's their word against yours. And if you got the tape, it's there. Now, if they go to a situation, can they forget to put the camera on?
You asked me if they can forget?
Yeah. It doesn't go on automatic, right?
No, they're manually operated.
Yeah.
Yes, so they're manually operated. There are some pieces of the system. For instance, there is a plastic device that gets put on your holster. So if you were to draw your firearm, your camera would automatically go on. So there's a sensor there. We're also looking down the road at some tasers. There are particular tasers from Axon that when one individual powers the taser on, it sends out almost like a Bluetooth signal, and any camera that's within that locale will automatically turn on as well.
So you're saying pretty well, they got the cameras, the city gonna be covered.
To the best that we can afford here, the best we can think of.
Well, I'd like to see it run the right way, and if you need it, that's good. We get enough lawsuits in the city of Fall River already. We don't need any more. And if we can get grants to try to make it easier for the police department and the city of Fall River, that's what we should do. And I think altogether, I mean, we have to back this up, and it's good for the citizens of Fall River as well. With that, I said enough. I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor in seat 8, Counselor Reposo.
Chief, just a real quick question. You mentioned about data storage. Is there a timeline of how much we have to hold on to? Like, for example, data, let's say we start tomorrow. How long do we have to hold on to that data from tomorrow? Is there a set period of time? Is that something you're going to set through the policy? Is there a standard?
There's certain pieces that we can negotiate,
Yeah.
and there's certain pieces that I imagine would be according to state law.
Okay. But there is at least somewhat of a set standard of what that looks like.
There absolutely will be.
Excellent. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor in seat 5, Counselor Lee.
When I was speaking with the previous chief about this pilot program in the past, it was said to me that the CDA was involved in the funding mechanism at that time. Has
Correct.
that changed? Is that part of this process as well?
Correct. We were successfully able to negotiate that price out.
Okay, great. Regarding that last question by Counselor in seat 8, this data, I mean, I know we might be going into a realm of like where you can't inform me on this, but this data could be valuable to more than just the current police department. This could be valuable in court cases and things like that, right?
Correct.
Okay. And
I anticipate that once we get this system up and running, even the pilot program, that we are going to see an abnormal spike in public record requests for these pieces.
And my guess is, and again, we don't know for sure, but maybe funding-wise, if other entities want this data, that could be something where the city could benefit from that, if they want the data.
When you say other entities,
Meaning if we're responsible for paying for data as a
Correct.
city, but other entities are using it, maybe more than one entity can help pay for the data. I mean, I might be.
I'm not sure
So-
I'm following you where the other entities would come from, because I imagine most of it is
DA's office.
public record. But
Anything like that?
So with regard to the DA's office, a discovery request to the police couldn't come with a fee.
Well, yeah,
So there's that. But if you're talking about other entities, I think if, and this is a huge if the data that we're talking about can be considered a public record, then it has to be covered by the public record rules, all right? And those rules are that the city has to give the requester 2 hours of its time accessing the records for free, and then afterward can charge a certain fee.
Okay.
A maximum fee I believe, of $25 an hour. And if they want a fee extension to charge more based upon some specialized knowledge that has to be brought to bear by somebody in IT or whatever else, then you would petition the or the Secretary of State to allow you to charge more.
Okay.
So I don't know that there is any sort of other way that we could charge for that information. And I don't know that we would want anyone to have any reason to say that they have control or a right to the information other than the law enforcement entity who has the most interest in maintaining the sanctity of the information, the veracity of what it shows and all that.
Okay.
And
I
the chain
appreciate
of
that.
custody.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Anything further from the council? Seeing nothing, this was just on for discussion. If we let it be, it goes away, or we can table it in committee.
Motion to table.
Second.
Motion to table made by Counselor Camara, seconded by Counselor Lee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Item 3 is transfers and appropriations. These are items 3 and 4 under priority matters. CFO will join us. Item 3 is the mayor in order transferring $12,000 from city council expenses to city council salaries. Ms. Alman, if you'd like to explain.
So it's my understanding that there was a council member that retired or left the council, and this was an employee, and this was the retirement buyout, so this line was over, so we have to do we're doing a transfer just to make this line whole.
Councilor seat 6, Councilor Pelletier.
You say a city councilor,
Employee.
Employee.
what,
An employee?
Employee in the city council department.
Councilor, there's a letter on the second page.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
item
hold
3.
on. I thought it was one of us getting paid, you know what I mean? You know, we lost one, so I figured it's Peckham. For 21,000, Jesus. I'm getting ready to retire. Okay, no problem.
You yield, Councilor?
I yield.
Anything further? Seeing nothing. Item 4.
And the next one has to do with making the schools whole for some funds that it was discovered that we owed back to them. So that transfer is just going over to the schools. And I believe that this was discussed prior.
I think you'll recall a few weeks ago, we had a conversation about, maybe it was $1.4 million to satisfy a portion of our net school spending obligation. This $871,000 is the balance of that to bring us to zero. So we are 100% on our net school spending obligation. We had talked a little bit about how that came to be, I think a few weeks ago. Does everyone recall that conversation?
Yes.
I believe that was the FY 2021 obligation, correct?
That's
To the
right.
school department? Yeah.
That's right.
I yield.
Thank you. So this is 2 parts. It's $21,151 appropriated to the school appropriation from the FY21 surplus revenue, and $850,000 be appropriated to the school appropriation from state and county assessments, for a total of $871,151. Is there anything further from the council? Councilor in seat 1, Councilor Kadim.
I just need clarification. So what is, I guess I'm not familiar with FY21 surplus revenue. What is that?
So the surplus revenue is, that's the free cash,
Oh, free cash. And then so I guess, should we not state free cash? Because, free cash is a combination of revenue and expenditures, right? So would we not typically just say free cash?
Because the year's closed and the audit, so now it becomes, I guess the name becomes it's surplus revenue. So, it's the surplus from that year. It'll then come into the number for our free cash for FY '22.
Okay. So has it been certified as free cash, or?
I don't think it's been certified yet.
No. So this is, so the surplus from FY '21, the audit that we just looked at the last
Yep.
meeting. So at this point, it's considered surplus. So then now the net amount of that will then be included in what we certify for free cash for FY '22 to going into FY '23. So I don't know how, I mean, Ed and I discussed it, and he felt that that was surplus revenue was the appropriate term.
So FY '21 surplus revenue, so
Yeah.
not this fiscal year, last fiscal year?
That's how I understood it.
We
yeah.
haven't been, I thought we've received our certification for free cash for FY '21.
I could be totally wrong, but when we were just talking about it prior to the meeting, I don't think this cash has been certified yet. So it's possible.
I guess number one, I've never seen surplus revenue for any appropriation. I'm just trying to understand that. And then
So is your question whether it's actually 22 rather than 21? Because that would make more sense if that hasn't been, because it wouldn't have been certified yet.
correct. Right.
But that wouldn't be surplus cash at this point because the fiscal year's not over yet.
Yeah.
So I believe this is 21. I just think it might be an odd turn of phrase. I think maybe we're just trying to get something started here that
Yeah,
is not going to catch on.
And it's just going to, it's just to close the gap for the schools for FY '21.
I'm just used to if it's free cash, we appropriate free cash for. I'm just trying to understand the surplus revenue portion of it. That's all. And then I guess the 850 for state and county assessment. So we received an additional $850,000.
So we have availability in that account to use towards this. So Ed did work on this, and he discussed this in length with the schools. And then he looked at we looked at our budget on the general fund, and this is where we identified to be able to transfer from. It's a little unexpected because it's, receiving the letter from DOR, or DESI.
Do you have a point of clarification, Counselor?
No, not yet. Let
All
me
right.
finish. What I want to talk next.
I guess I'm not trying to make a big issue. I've never seen state and county assessments being appropriated, right? It's usually an appropriation at the beginning of the year, so we take the assessments and as part of the appropriation order for the entire budget. I guess it just.
So I can.
I'm just trying to understand the 850. I would think that the 850 has already been committed as part of revenue for the balancing of the FY '22 budget.
So I can look in and discuss that with Ed and what his rationale, and we can certainly give you a call.
Yeah, perfect.
We're still
do
in a
that.
bit of a transition here, so.
No, it's okay.
I appreciate your patience.
I'm truly not trying to make
No.
any issues. It's not making sense to me. That's
Point
all.
of information?
I yield.
You have a point of information, Counselor?
So if in reality, it would be viewed as free cash, but it's not certified, how can you spend free cash that's not certified? Because you
So
don't
it's
have it if it hasn't been certified.
It's surplus from FY '21 that we had the audit finalized, so we know we have that surplus.
So I think I might have muddied the water here. I think I misunderstood what Councilor Kadim was asking, and I was saying that any surplus revenue, purported surplus revenue right now from this fiscal year isn't certified yet because the fiscal year is not over. But what's really going on is that this money is from '21, not '22, which would have been certified last, October?
Or November.
Or November, around there. So that was just I misunderstood the question. So this is certified money. This is true free cash. The fact that it's being called surplus revenue, I think is probably the point of, not contention, but the thing that might be a little bit misleading here, and it's not meant to be. This is free cash that would have been certified last fall.
Okay. So if it was certified as free cash, then it's free cash, which normally would be transferred. It's not surplus money. It can only be one or the other. It
I
can't
would
be,
agree.
it can't mix and it can't be both.
That's true.
So it's either certified or it's not. If it's certified, it's free cash. If it's not certified, you can't spend it as free cash. Yeah, I think we need some clarification on this. With that, I yield.
Thank you. Counselor, seat 2, Counselor Kamara.
So typically what we do is when we have free cash and we don't use it, we put in a stabilization account.
Correct.
So surplus money, I mean, I know it's a new term, but I agree with my colleague, we don't use that terminology. It's either free cash or stabilization.
And I'm going to
Okay.
confirm with Ed tomorrow and get you all
All right.
clarification.
Do we know what we're asking to be certified in this coming budget coming up?
No.
Do we have
I
any-
don't
yet,
know the
no.
number yet.
When will we know that?
That won't happen till October, November.
We won't have any idea?
That's how, DOR, that's how it works.
Okay, so usually that's how we typically call it free cash, and whatever you have left over free cash, you usually put it into a stabilization account for a specific purpose. That's how it used to be done. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Anything further from the council? Counselor in seat 5, Counselor Lee.
Just based on the conversation between the councilors, if we were to table this until the councilors get their clarification, are we are our backs against the wall for this transfer? Are we able to, have that time period?
Well, the schools are looking to get it as soon as possible so they can spend it.
Yeah.
And we're getting close to the end of the year.
Okay. Well, so I'll let the council, figure that out.
So it's on for discussion in finance. It's also in full committee. So if they're able to get the question answered
Right.
before we get to it in full committee, we
Okay.
could have them come down. Otherwise, we could table it and would be on for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. I
You
yield.
yield? Thank you. Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Camara.
Yeah, look, real simple. It's just a matter of mischaracterizing the wording of where the money is, but the school needs it. We have it. Let's give it to them, and let's not hold it up because of that technicality. We'll figure it out. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Anything further from the council? Thank you. Do we have? Let's see.
All set?
Motion to adjourn
We have a
finance?
motion to adjourn finance.
Second.
Motion to adjourn made by Counselor Kilby, seconded by Counselor Lee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Finance is adjourned. We'll start full council at 7 o'clock. The regular meeting of the City Council will now come to order. Madam Clerk.
Councilors Kadim?
Here.
Kamara?
Here.
Dion? Here. Kilby?
Here.
Lee?
Here.
Pelletier?
Here.
Pereira? Reposo?
Here.
President Lullaby LeBeau.
Here. Would everyone in the chamber please rise for a moment of silent prayer? And remain standing for a salute to the flag. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Madam Clerk?
The first item before you is the mayor's request for the appointment of John Sylvia to the Board of Appeals.
Also confirm.
Second.
Motion to confirm made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Council Vice President Dion. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, you have a discussion, Councilor in seat 6?
Yeah, I just want to ask a question.
Councilor in seat 6?
Is there supposed to be a Republican and 2 Democrats on that thing?
That's the
The
next
Board
one.
of
That's the
Appeals.
next one.
Board of Appeals.
Oh,
This one's the Board of Appeals. That one's coming.
I'm ahead.
You are.
I'm ahead of the class. I yield.
Anything further from the council? All those in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. Is Mr. Sylvia here? Thank you, Mr. Sylvia. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you for coming also.
Madam Clerk?
The item number 2 is the mayor's, 1B, is the mayor's request for the confirmation of Lisa Robitaille to the Board of Election Commissioners.
Motion to confirm.
Motion to confirm made by Councilor Kilby,
Second.
second by Councilor Pelletier. Any discussion? Councilor in seat
Now
6.
it's time, Leo.
This is the Board of
Oh,
Election.
This is it.
This the one?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Is it two Democrats, or you need a Republican and whatever, 2 Republicans and
Madam
one?
Clerk?
Republicans and 2
So
Democrats.
what's the status with these individuals?
I will tell you that Ms. Robitaille is fulfilling the vacancy caused by the resignation of Manuel Leet, so I will assume that she is filling the Republican seat.
So it's right then. It should be right.
It should be right, Councilor, but it does not say.
Yeah, all right. I'm having trouble with your mask here, but you say it's right, I'm off the hook. I yield.
Does not say that on this, on the appointment letter, but I am assuming that she is filling the Republican seat, as Manuel Leet was did fill that Republican seat on the board.
So he's a Republican, is that what you said? Okay.
He was a Republican, but we don't have, it does not say whether Ms. Robitaille is a Republican. Is she here?
Should we wait?
I know there's other councilors that want to speak, Councilor.
I yield.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor in seat 3, Council Vice President Dion.
Yeah, personally, I'd like to get confirmation on that and not go by assumption, because within this, it stated that she approached the city and said it was something that she would like to do. Perhaps it's not something that she was aware of, maybe, anything is possible, but where it should be 2 and 2, I think we should have the clarification. If we can get it, fine, and if not, we'll make a motion to table and get the clarification.
I think there's more councilors that would like to speak, and also the city administrator is motioning.
That wasn't a formal motion.
Do we have a motion to waive the rules?
Yeah, motion made.
Motion to waive the rules made by Councilor Lee, seconded by Councilor Kilby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Attorney Aiken?
So just for the record, this person is a Republican, is not a friend or acquaintance of the mayor, but was identified as having made herself known in the past. And so she is a Republican for the purpose of filling the Republican slot.
One
Thank
more
you.
question. And I'm not to nitpick, I just want to get things right, especially with elections. And she's been a Republican for the allotted time that she was supposed to be prior to this?
More than a year?
More than a year?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor in seat 5, Counselor Lee.
I retract. I was also under the same impression that we did not have that information. I was not going to vote on it until we did, so thank you. I yield.
Thank you. Counselor Camara, you had your hand raised?
Oh, no, I'm good.
All set? Thank
He answered the questions. Sure, Republican?
Attorney Aiken, could you just make sure if one of these comes down, it has the party on it?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Seems
Anything
like an
further from the
important
council?
thing.
It is.
We'll make sure in the future that happens.
Is there anything further from the council? So a motion to confirm,
Motion to confirm.
Second.
made by Counselor Kilby, it was seconded by Council Vice President Dion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
We have the mayor's request for the reappointment of Richard Calderon to the Community Preservation Committee.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
Motion to confirm made by Counselor Camara, seconded by Counselor Kilby. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
We have the mayor's request for the confirmation of the reappointment of Jeffrey Sylvia to the Board of Park Commissioners.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to confirm made by Counselor Reposo,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Lee. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
We have the mayor's request for the
Motion to
reappointment
adopt.
of Victor Farias to the Board of Park Commissioners.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to confirm made by Counselor
Second.
Lee, seconded by Counselor Camara. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Are any of those gentlemen here? Madam Clerk?
Ordered that the sum of $12,000 be, and the same is hereby transferred to the city council salaries from the city council expenses.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Kilby.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Reposo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Item number 4, the transfers and appropriations. The first, that the sum of $871,151 be, and the same is hereby appropriated to the school appropriation. One is in the amount of $21,151 for FY21 surplus revenue and $850,000 for state and county assessments.
Motion to adopt the order.
Second?
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Camara, seconded by Counselor Kilby. Any discussion? Counselor in seat 3, Council Vice President?
Yeah, I believe the only one under discussion was A. Should we separate A and B until we can get clarification on the surplus versus the free cash versus the...
I believe we have confirmation if we want a motion to waive the rules.
I
Motion
make a
made.
motion to waive the rules.
Motion to waive the rules made by Counselor Dion, seconded by Counselor Lee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Attorney Aiken?
Hello.
Hello. So the 21,000 plus is free cash from 2021 certified. There's approximately 1.6 million plus or minus in free cash, and this is from that. The 850,000, it was appropriated for assessments, not used. And so that money is available in that account, and it seemed like the most appropriate place where there was an excess of appropriation to use it for this, to get us to a 100% fulfillment of our net school spending obligation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry for the confusion. Thank you.
It's okay.
Counselor in seat 3, you still have the floor.
I'm set.
All
I
set?
yield. Thank you.
Anything further from the council? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Item number 5 is the mayor's appropriation order in the amount of $2,511,737 from the Community Preservation Act funds for FY 2023 community projects.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Kilby.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Lee. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Item number 6 is the mayor's communication in the order for the FY 2023 revolving funds.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Kilby.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Any discussion? This is for the 2023 revolving funds. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Madam President,
Yes, Counselor.
just through you, can I just request that the city administrator just quickly check? I think the Municipal Modernization Act amended this, so this doesn't, I don't believe this needs to come before the city council every year anymore. So.
For the revolving funds, Counselor?
Yeah. Unless there's a change in the spending limit or the establishment of it, it doesn't require the approval. So
Okay. Thank you,
just trying to
Counselor. Will
streamline.
you check that, please? Thank you.
Streamline the process.
And if you'd let the clerk know. Thank you. Thank you, Counselor.
Item number 7 is the Traffic Commission recommending amendments to the traffic ordinances.
Motion to refer to the ordinance committee made by Counselor Camara,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Reposo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
The Committee on Ordinances and Legislation, at a meeting held on May 3rd, voted unanimously to recommend the accompanying proposed ordinance, accompanied by an emergency preamble, be passed through first reading, second reading, passed to be enrolled, and passed to be ordained, with Councilors Kilby and Lee absent and not voting.
Motion to adopt with emergency preamble made by Counselor Camara,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Any discussion? Need a roll call, Madam Clerk?
On adoption of the emergency preamble, Councilors Kadim,
Yes.
Camara,
Yes.
Dion,
Yes.
Kilby,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Pelletier,
Yes.
Pereira, Reposo,
Yes.
and President Lullaby LeBeau.
Yes.
Motion to adopt the order?
Motion to adopt the order made by Counselor Camara,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Pelletier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
The Committee on Ordinances and Legislation, at a meeting held on May 3rd, voted unanimously to recommend that the accompanying proposed ordinance be passed through first reading, with Councilors Kilby and Lee absent and not voting. This is the miscellaneous traffic ordinance.
Motion to take 1 and 2 separate.
Motion to take items 1 and 2 separate.
That would be Granite Street.
Item 1 has Indian Town Road and Granite Street. They both have Granite Street, Counselors. Item 1 has the stop sign, and item 2 has the one-way. Item 1, motion to take items 1 and 2 separate, made by Council Vice President Dion,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Reposo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Clerk?
Motion to refer it to Public Works and Transportation.
Second.
Item 1 with the stop sign, Counselor?
Item 1 and 2.
You can refer
Oh,
it
do we
back
have
to
to-
the ordinance committee,
Oh, refer to, okay, sorry, refer to ordinance, sorry.
1 and 2.
Correct.
Okay.
Can we separate Indian Town Road and at least put a stop sign there?
I'm sorry, can't hear you, Counselor.
You have 2 stop signs, one's Indian Town Road and one's Granite Street. Can we at least approve the Indian Town Road stop sign?
Madam Clerk, can we separate Indian Town Road and Granite Street stop signs in item 1?
Seems to be a problem with Granite Street. Let's not delay the Indian Town Road stop sign. I'm sorry, Indian Town Road at
Yeah,
Blossom Road.
no, we were only,
You
well,
can just-
we should have separated. I was only
You can
referring to
separate
Granite
the
Street.
Granite Street
Separate it?
portion.
Motion to adopt stop sign at Indian Town Road. and
Second.
Blossom Road.
Madam Clerk, do we need to separate those first?
You can separate the Granite Street portion of Section 1, and you can separate the Section 2 that relates to Granite Street. We'll just take out those portions of this ordinance and refer those back to the ordinance committee.
And adopt the
I'd
rest of
like to
them.
make that motion.
Yep.
Motion made to separate in item 1, Indian Town Road and Granite Street stop signs, made by Council Vice
Second.
President Dion, seconded by Council Reposo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Madam President,
Yes, Counselor.
Grant Street is going, the two items on Grant Street?
They will be after this vote,
Vote.
Counselor. If it's the will of Council, yes.
Together, okay. Are you?
So a motion to adopt item 1, stop sign at Indian Town Road would be appropriate.
I made that motion.
You did, I'm sorry, Counselor. Made by Counselor Camara. Was there a
Second.
second already, Madam Clerk? Or was that just on the separation?
The separation of Granite Street from this
So now
entire
we need a
ordinance.
motion to adopt.
Sorry.
Motion to adopt made
Second,
by
Mayor.
Counsel Camara, seconded by Counsel Reposo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Okay.
The second part of item 1 is the Granite Street stop sign.
Motion to refer to ordinance?
Second.
Motion to refer to ordinance made by Counsel Vice President Dion, seconded by Counsel Reposo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
It's been me this whole time, it's fine.
Sorry. Madam Clerk.
I'm sorry? All set? All set with this one? Okay. Item number 10, the Committee on Ordinances and Legislation, at a meeting held on May 3rd, voted 2 yeas, 1 nay to recommend the accompanying proposed ordinances be passed through first reading with Councilor Dion voting in the negative and Councilors Kilby and Lee absent and not voting. These are the water and sewer rates.
Motion to adopt?
Madam President.
Madam Clerk, I don't think we
We're not done
approved
with,
the rest of item
finish the rest
9.
of
Oh,
9.
I'm sorry. That was my question. All right, let's get back to 9. All right, you took a vote to separate Granite Street.
Correct.
30-minute parking at South Main Street, Madam Clerk.
Yep, we're on section 3.
Section 3, okay.
And then the handicap striking out. Handicap parking striking out after that.
3 and 4.
I can't hear anybody. I can't hear anybody.
We
So-
separated,
We should have just made a motion to take Granite Street, both the stop sign
Yeah.
and the street, and send it back and approve everything
And
else.
that's it. That's all you need to do.
so we just,
votes.
Madam Clerk, would be to,
2 votes. 1 vote to separate Granite Street from Section 1 and Section 2, refer that back to the ordinance committee, and you can pass the remainder of the ordinance through
I
first
will
reading.
make that motion.
That's it.
motion made by Counselor in C3. Do we need to
Second.
take the other one back, Madam Clerk?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Lee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Back to number 10. The Committee on Ordinances and Legislation, at a meeting held on May 3rd, voted 2 yeas, 1 nay to recommend the accompanying proposed ordinances be passed through first reading with Councilor Dion voting in the negative and Councilors Kilby and Lee absent and not voting. These are the water and sewer rates ordinances.
Motion to, second.
Motion to pass through first reading made by Counselor Kilby, seconded by Counselor Kadim. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Counselor in seat 3 opposed, Counselor in seat 5 opposed.
The Committee on Ordinances and Legislation, at a meeting held on May 3rd, voted unanimously to recommend that the accompanying proposed ordinance be passed through first reading with Councilors Kilby and Lee absent and not voting. This ordinance relates to the residential compost recycling program.
Motion to pass through first reading?
Second.
Motion to pass through first reading made by Counsel Vice President Dion, seconded by Counselor Reposo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
The Committee on Ordinances and Legislation, at a meeting held on May 3rd, voted unanimously to recommend that the accompanying proposed ordinance be passed through first reading with Councilors Kilby and Lee absent and not voting. This is the ordinance that relates to historical preservation.
Motion to pass through first reading.
Second.
Motion to pass through first reading made by Counselor Reposo, seconded by Council Vice President Dion. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Whereas the city of Fall River will be receiving $16,035,844.70 in Bristol County ARPA funds, and whereas the spending of these funds requires signatures of 5 members of the Fall River City Council, now therefore be it resolved that each member of the City Council review the ARPA funds' allowable uses and be prepared to make recommendations to the administration on how these funds are spent. And be it further resolved that the city administrator and director of financial services be invited to attend the Committee on Finance meeting scheduled for Tuesday, May 24th, to discuss and provide guidance on the council's recommendations in order to ensure the final decision on the use of these funds is reached in cooperation with the administration and in the best interest of the residents, businesses, and city of Fall River.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Kilby,
Second.
seconded by Council Vice President Dion. In speaking with the administration, this is Bristol County ARPA funds, and it does specify that 5 members of the City Council do have to sign off on the use of the funds. I did ask the clerk to make sure you all had a packet, a summary of approved uses of ARPA funds. Madam Clerk, is that on their desks, or was it sent by email?
By email, both email and on the desk.
So if you, these funds will be coming, they may be coming in quarters, or half the funds at once. We're not quite sure yet. But we'll have that discussion on the 24th. Any further discussion? Councilor in seat 8, Councilor Reposo.
Through you, Madam President, I'm just curious, is there a sort of a summary of some of the discussions that the ARPA committee that currently stands has as far as collection of information from residents of what they'd like to see some of that ARPA money used for?
That's a great question, Councilor. And I know that Councilor Vice President is on that committee. Do you know if there are summary notes, Councilor Dion?
To what the meetings I've attended so far, I would say not. It's been presentations and people specifically requesting funding. But the ARPA funding that exists and this county funding are 2 separate pots of money, and they're under different guidelines. So I'm not sure how we would gauge one against the other.
I'm just getting at the idea of, because my next statement's going to be, this is a good opportunity where we'd like to hear from residents exactly how we can best utilize this money, and we're in a position to make that decision. So instead of kind of doing the same work twice, if we already have an idea of some of the conversations that have happened and some of the ideas that have been brought forth, instead of doing the work twice, do we already have that information available to us?
There were 2 public meetings. At those public meetings, people did weigh in and give their opinions and speak to what they thought that money should be spent on. And some of those organizations, individuals have come forward, submitted applications to the mayor. The applications have been reviewed. So I'm not really sure at this point, the people who did speak, how many haven't submitted applications. But I don't really feel, I mean, it's something we can see if we can get something in writing, but I don't really feel that one overlaps the other in this case. I think we're in a new realm, a different dynamic here.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just looking more for ideas, because obviously I'd like to hear from people about what we can best utilize it for. But again, if they've already stated that and it's already in some sort of record or what have you, then asking a double question again, so.
I agree with you, Councilor. We could also ask the administration to put it out publicly for input from the residents and businesses.
Yeah, I think that would be ideal if we could do something like that. I yield, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor in seat 5, Councilor Lee.
And I'm never against, hearing the opinions of people as to how this should go. However, I still receive messages, and I'm sure some of us do, about, hey, can ARPA be used for this? Can ARPA be used for that? And if we're going to take that public, that public opinion, I recommend too that there's more emphasis on the guidelines, because they have, at least over the last year, they sort of were vague as to how they could be used. I think it's becoming more clarified now. But I think if we're going to do that, then there should be also that obligation to inform the public as to the guidelines as how it can be spent, because there are a lot of requests that came down to me personally that I knew didn't fit in the guidelines, unfortunately, So if we're going to do something like that, then I believe we should also at the same time encourage to keep pushing that information. I think the committee has, because I've been to a handful of those meetings already. But if we're going to continue to keep pushing that, then also push the education part of it as well, especially if there's a difference between Bristol County ARPA funding and local municipal ARPA funding as well. So, thank you, I yield.
Thank you. So, Councilor
Can I
Tine?
just clarify one thing, though? I understand it's two different pots of money, but as far as the rules of what qualifies under ARPA money is no different?
I'm not aware that it's different.
No, just point
sorry,
of clarification. So Bristol County received a $110 million appropriation for ARPA. And so the county commissioners are going to be keeping some of that portion of the monies for themselves so they can spend on the county level, and then, appropriating additional monies to the communities. Falls in the same buckets. Lost revenue, for instance, if you used lost revenue until they changed the actual formula. So if you were over the $10 million, you couldn't apply, because you have to apply for the county commissioners. You can't apply lost revenue. So you have to go into all the different other buckets, and it's got to get approved, but you still have the same requirements and restrictions that are applied to the various categories. I will say that if Fall River has not used the entire amount of lost revenue, the Bristol County commissioners have decided not to allow that to be eligible for communities. So they're going to use that lost revenue, which is the least restrictive. It essentially washes the money, and you can use that as a grant. So local communities are not able to utilize the lost revenue. They're able to utilize every other category as it currently stands now. So.
Thank you, Councilor. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Anything, and I would agree with you, Councilor, in seat 5. I did post on social media asking for suggestions, and I would say maybe 75% of them aren't eligible. So if it's the will of council, we could ask the clerk to send a communication to the administration asking them to put it online along with the available uses. And the 24th, it will just be our first discussion.
Madam President, can I ask one more question? Sorry.
Sure.
Through you to my colleague in seat 3. When the ARPA committee met, as far as gating ideas, was there any sort of digital survey sent out or anything?
Was there what? I'm sorry.
A digital survey sent to residents that they could scan a QR code and give some suggestions?
No, not to
No?
my
Okay.
knowledge. No.
I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from the council?
QR code.
Hey, listen, it's 2022, Just
Yeah.
throwing some ideas out there, that's all.
So we had a motion to adopt that's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Whereas snow removal represents a significant expense and is the only account that is subject to deficit spending, and whereas accountability, documentation, record-keeping, and receipts supporting the cost and expenditures of past snowstorms have been lacking, and whereas the use of GPS, proper documentation for licensing, proof of insurance, and registration are in question, and whereas the question of improper use of city and private contractor vehicles and lack of oversight for the use of products in the removal of snow and treatment of streets related to storms has given rise to serious concerns. Now therefore be it resolved that the city administrator, director of financial services, and the director of community maintenance be invited to a future meeting of the Committee on Public Works and Transportation to discuss and review these matters. And be it further resolved that a complete accounting of each individual snowstorm this past winter be presented, including start and end times for each storm, both city and private contractor hours worked, and any and all charges incurred by the city.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt made by Councilor Kilby,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Reposo. Any discussion? Councilor in seat 3, the sponsor of the resolution, Council Vice President Dion.
Yeah, one of the things that sparked this was last year there was a discussion. There were some charges that were in question, and we started talking about receipts, et cetera. And we were told that once the city made the entries from snowstorms, documentation receipts were thrown away. That there were some random boxes stored in a basement, a garage, and somewhere else, that if we wanted to go through the boxes and see what we could find, we would be allowed to do that. So obviously, that's just not a proper way to handle receipts, et cetera. So that's just part of what kind of sparked this whole discussion. With that, I'll yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Anything further from the council? We have a motion to adopt. It's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Whereas the Fall River City Council has received multiple communications regarding environmental concerns regarding construction on Stonehaven Road, now therefore be it resolved that the Committee on Health and Environmental Affairs convene with residents from the Stonehaven Road neighborhood and the Administrator of Community Utilities to address concerns.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to
Second.
adopt made by Counselor in seat, Counselor Reposo, seconded by Council Vice President Dion. Any discussion? Sponsor of the resolution, Counselor in seat 5, Counselor
And I won't take too long on this. I don't know how many councils are receiving these emails. I decided to, even if it was one person making complaints, I think we still have to consider the information that's being given to us in these emails. But I actually called the individual and went out to the area and met with him and about 7 or 8 other residents in that area. I also did talk to Mr. Furlan about it as well. Mr. Furlan informed me that there have been many meetings as well with those individuals and other individuals in that neighborhood. But I also felt that these individuals specifically were reaching out for a reason regarding environmental concerns, trees being knocked down, things like that, noise pollution possibly. And I think there's a lot of information in those emails that could be disputed as to whether or not they're valid or not. I'm not going to spend that time on that part necessarily, but my concerns are about the environmental aspects of it. And we have a subcommittee that we can actually have this conversation, put it on record. I have 2 very experienced counselors on that subcommittee, Counselor Joe Camara and Linda Pereira. I feel is that could be valuable in this conversation as well. So I would appreciate having this passed so we can have this discussion with those residents and other residents from that area, including Mr. Furlan. And also, there were some traffic concerns and things like that, and if there's anything in there that needs to go to where it needs to go, I'd like to bring that as well, whether it be Ms. Ferrera or whoever else. So I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor in seat 3, did you have your hand up?
Yes.
Counselor Vice
Yeah,
President?
I've been out there as well and have seen what the work that's been done up there. I've spoken with the residents as well, and I think this is a great resolution. I think there are a lot of issues that need to be discussed, and I don't know that there's some that can never be fixed, unfortunately. I believe there have been adverse effects on the neighbors as a result of some of the work that's been done up there, and it's very unfortunate. So I definitely 100% back this resolution. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Anything further? Counselor in seat 1.
Yeah, I guess I'm just a little confused by the resolution. So we've got a building project that's taken place. The administration knows what's going on. So if there are environmental concerns, I think one would, I guess, if it's trees, if the tree's already been cut down, I don't know what a subcommittee is going to do.
Just to inform, so meeting with these individuals, they were told that the trees would be replaced after they were moved out of the way for construction. So right now they're not, and they don't know if it's going to happen.
No, I recognize that. I guess this is where I just struggle sometimes with the legislative body. I think we just become too reactionary to constituent complaints, and we file resolutions for everything when we don't have the authority to do anything from a legislative body. So I'm just trying to understand how this resolution affects a legislative body. We're not going to legislate trees be put up on a building project. We just don't have that authority, right? So I guess I'm just trying to figure out what the solution is. I mean, if councilors want to set up meetings, individual meetings with the constituents, I would agree that I think they have the right to do that. But I mean, to file a resolution and have a subcommittee, I mean, I'm not on the subcommittee. I would just, I don't think that that's within our scope. But the administration is the one that's handling the building project, and it should be on the administration's responsibility to deal with the complaints along with the general contractor, the OPM, the architect, whoever's involved. I don't understand why, Health and Human Services would be entertaining this. So I personally am not going to support it. I can appreciate it going forward, but I think, again, we've got to strike a balance. We really do. Unless you can tell me that there's something that we can actually, a proactive approach that we can take that we can implement either in an ordinance or whatever the case may be, then that's a different story. Just,
Counselor in seat 5, was it in their site plan that the trees were going to be replaced?
I do not have that. I don't have that site plan. I believe that was, so we've been in situations before. South end of the city where we all went down there and had a big discussion about, flooding in that area, things like that. There were concerns about water pressure, things like that. There was just a lot of things that I feel needed to be talked about, put out there on record to see what solutions can be found. So if councils don't want to support it, that's their prerogative, but I do feel like this is something that, we could possibly have something productive come out of this. So I yield on that. I'll just leave it alone.
Thank you, Counselor. Anything further from the council?
Just a
Counselor in seat
question.
2, Counselor Camara.
Yeah, Health and Human Services, was the Board of Health involved in this?
No. This isn't Health and Human Services. This is environmental.
Sorry.
It says, I think it's health.
oh, I'm sorry, Health and Environmental Affairs.
Yeah.
I, for one, tend to agree with my colleague in seat 1. I mean, it's something that, if the city's got an ongoing project and the neighbors are upset at the construction and what's going on, and you said they were being told that trees were going to be replaced, well, the project's not over yet. Why would they replace trees in the middle of a project? That never happens. So once the project is done and completed, the trees would get replaced. I'm sure if the city told them that's going to happen, it's going to happen. I know Mr. Ferlin, I know people in the city are working on this, and I would hate to think they're going to just pull the wool over the neighbors' eyes, because that's when we get involved. When those things that were said to neighbors don't happen. But I agree with him, let's not jump the gun. It's similar to what we did with the tasers, the cameras, when they're working on it, and we try to put a resolution. And we can meet, we can have a 5-hour discussion. At the end of the meeting, he's right, we can't dictate to them and tell them what to do when they haven't done it yet, and they still have the opportunity to do it. So I'd rather wait till it comes and let it finish their project, let the trees get in place, let the administration work, let Mr. Ferlin do his job, and obviously, if there are environmental affairs that are going on, there's a department for that they can call and make sure that they'll be there to take care of those affairs as well.
I would just say, just in response.
I'm
One
not done yet.
second, do you,
So we can go on about this all night, back and forth, but I think the simple thing to do is just vote our conscience on whether we think this is the right time to have that meeting or not. Not to say that there's not one that might be due when the project's done, but I think right now is not the time. We can have, as my colleague said, any council, and I've done it many times, met with neighborhood people and expressed my, intentions to the administration and to the people in charge of that project, and they've always been responsive and accommodating. So with that, I yield. Thank you.
thank you, Counselor. Counselor in seat 5?
No, just in response, I'll table or whatever it is that, if this isn't the right time for it, fine. But I do feel that we're kind of not disregarding the concerns of citizens in that area right now. I do feel that that's what's happening at the moment right now, and it's unfortunate, but I will, I respect the opinions of my colleagues on this, so.
Counselor, we can take this vote to send it to the committee, and then you chair this committee, correct?
Yeah.
So it could be sitting in committee if it is needed. Anything further from the council? Counselor in seat 1.
Yeah, again, I don't want to belabor the point, but I think at some point, with some of these resolutions, we're just micromanaging an executive branch that we have no control over, nor should we be micromanaging. That being said, I'm not taking lightly the concerns that the neighbors have, and I would just echo that the administration really needs to take a hard look with Mr. Ferlin. If they're having meetings, maybe they need to have more meetings, and again, at some point, sometimes people need to hear things that they don't want to hear, and we just can't, we need to be able to filter out the message, and we need to understand that it is the administration, not our responsibility. That's all I'm saying. That being said, I would just urge the administration to continue to work with the residents up there, and I think quality of life is an important part of it, and I know the project's temporary, but if they have significant long-term concerns that we can alleviate, then I would suggest that we alleviate it. If there's short-term concerns, and I think if neighbors have concerns with noise ordinance, then we need to enforce the noise ordinance, right? I I've heard some stories too. You know, I think there's a lot of stakeholders involved in that are, you know, creating difficult situations, and I sometimes takes place with construction projects. It's an unfortunate situation, sometimes difficult to manage, but I think the administration has to manage that. That's their responsibility. That's what they do. They do the day-to-day, not us. We're a legislative body. We set ordinances. We do appropriations. That's essentially our control. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Anything further from the council? Counselor at seat 4, do you have your hand raised? No. Anything further? All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call.
On the resolution, on the motion to adopt, Councilors Kadim?
No.
Kamara?
No.
Dion?
Yes.
Kilby?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Pelletier?
No.
Pereira? Reposo?
Yes.
And President Lullaby LaBeouf.
Yes.
The motion carries. Item number 16 is the order granting permission to Mallory Rosa, doing business as Black Brick Market, for permission to operate a secondhand article store at 575 Globe Street.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Kilby,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Reposo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Item 17 is the order granting permission to Joachim Fernandez for curb removal at 178 Lake Avenue. If I may, this item is before the zoning board at next week's meeting of May 19th. So the city engineer has suggested that the council, if they are so inclined to adopt this order, if they adopt pending the approval of the zoning board.
Motion made, adopt pending approval of zoning board.
Second.
Motion made pending approval of the zoning boards. Second by Counselor Camara, seconded by Counselor Reposo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Item number 18 is the order granting permission to Carl Cabuccio for the removal of curbing at 1297 North Main Street.
To adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Kilby, seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Item 19 is the order granting permission to Barrett Castro for the removal of curbing at 554 Reading Street.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Pelletier, seconded by Counselor Camara. Any discussion? Counselor in seat 3, Counsel Vice President.
Yeah, I believe that 19 and 20 were the ones, that's the corner lot, where
Yes.
we weren't sure about that much footage, where it might go to Public Works and Transportation for discussion. I believe that was mentioned. If not, I'm fine.
Motion to adopt on the floor.
Motion to adopt both items.
You want to adopt them, Counselor, or do you want to send them to
19, 20.
committee?
Said adopted, was seconded.
All right, whatever.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You're opposed, Counselor? Counselor in seat 3 is opposed.
Item 21 is the order granting permission to Michael Mata for the removal of curbing at 388 Quincy Street.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Kilby, seconded by Counselor Reposo.
Did we
Any
take
discussion?
Did we take 19 and 20 together?
Already
We just did
done.
19.
You're correct, Counselor. Madam Clerk, we didn't take those together, so we need to vote on 20.
Didn't Councilor Pelletier ask to take them together?
Yeah, but then.
But we didn't
they
vote on
wanna-
it.
They want to do separate.
Okay. Item 20 is Barrett Castro for the removal of curbing 554 Reading Street. This would be on the Valentine Street side.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to
Second.
adopt made by Counselor Pelletier,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Camara. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Object.
Roll call, Madam Clerk?
Not object, no.
No, you're not objecting? You're just a no vote.
No vote.
Counselor in seat 3 is opposed.
Opposed, thank you.
Okay. Got it. We're on item 22.
We didn't finish 21 yet, Madam Clerk.
21. So confused. You got me so confused. All right, we're back to item 21. With
Sorry.
Michael Mata for the removal of curbing at 388 Quincy Street.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Reposo, seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Item 22 is the request for permission being granted to Phil Ponte at 500 State Avenue.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Reposo, seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
23 is the order granting permission to Kenneth Pereira for the removal of curbing at 515 Smith Street.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Reposo,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
And 24 is the order granting permission to Paulo J. Amaral at 110 Andrew Street for removal of curbing.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Reposo,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
We have the police chief's report on licenses.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Kilby,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Reposo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
We have an application for the renewal of an auto repair shop at 2322 South Main Street.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Reposo, seconded by Counselor Kadim. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
We have an auto body shop license renewal at 39 11th Street.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Reposo,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
I have an application for the transfer of an auto repair shop license at 697 Pleasant Street.
Motion to adopt the transfer?
Second.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Camara, seconded by Counselor Reposo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
I have a number of claims.
Motion for the
Motion.
Corporation Council?
Second.
Motion to refer to Corporation Council made by Counselor Camara, seconded by Counselor Reposo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Item 30 is the communication from the city engineer and a street, for a street opening for a street less than 5 years at 150 and 166 Purchase Street.
Motion to grant street opening?
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Camara,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Kadim. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Item 31 is an open meeting law complaint.
For the Corporation Council.
Motion to refer to Corporation Council made by Counselor Kilby,
Second.
seconded by Council Vice President Dion. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
We have a communication from Friedman, Fram, and Thrush regarding a public comment censorship.
Motion to accept, place on file.
Motion to accept and place on file made by
Second.
Counselor Kadim, seconded by Counselor Reposo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
We have a number of drain layer licenses.
Just, Madam President, can we
Yes.
just backtrack real quick, just in terms of the item number 31 that we just referred to Corporation Council?
Yes.
Can we just get an opinion on any open meeting law violations in committee? how they should proceed, whether it's in full council or should it be?
So, Counselor, the letter that was submitted for citizens' input references a specific MGL. However, that MGL is about approving minutes in committee. It is not about approving, it's not about hearing open meeting law complaints in committee.
But one would be one and the same, right? So if you're approving.
So, and the complaint that he's referring to was actually found to be that they did not violate the open meeting law. We are still hearing the minutes in committee.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just saying the
No.
premise would remain the same.
It would.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk?
So I just want to get it straight. I just don't want to have more open meeting law
No,
violations on.
I did speak to the
just-
clerk and Attorney Aiken on the break, and the clerk had pulled out what the Mass General Law that he was referring to and the complaint that he was referring to, and it was on the school committee, and it was on committee minutes. And the state did find that the committee did not violate the open meeting law. We are still doing, we have decided to put the meeting minutes in the subcommittees with Mr. Higgins' suggestion, just so that they're heard there, but it does not specify that the open meeting law complaints need to go to subcommittee. You yield.
I yield, sorry.
Madam Clerk?
Item number 33, drain layer licenses.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion approved made by Councilor Reposo, seconded by Councilor Kadim. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Have minutes of the zoning board of appeals.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would that be a motion to accept and
Motion
place on
accept and
file?
place on
Sorry.
file.
That's what I meant.
Motion to accept and place on file made by Councilor Reposo, seconded by Councilor Kadim. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Have a application for a structure over a public way for a stepping stone
Motion
or
to
a
approve.
banner.
Second.
Motion approved made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Reposo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
We have minutes of the meeting of the city council held on April 12th.
Motion to approve and place on file.
Motion approved made by Councilor Reposo,
Second.
seconded by Council Vice President Dion. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Have a communication from National Grid regarding the vegetation management plan.
Motion accept and place on file.
Motion to accept and place on file made by Council Vice President Dion.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Reposo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Have a communication that was received from the mayor and two tie agreements. One is for the 84 Durfee LLC and one for Mechanics Mill 1 LLC.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
Motion to adopt made by Councilor Camara, seconded by Councilor Kilby. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
And lastly, we have one additional drain layer license that was filed after the agenda was prepared.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved made by Councilor Reposo. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Kilby. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned. I'm sorry, Councilor in seat 6, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'd like to ask if you could give us the dates for the budget and to consider whether or not we're starting at 5:30, whether we have a cutoff like we'd had the cutoff at 9. I know you have at least 3 or 4 scheduled.
Correct.
But it'd be nice to know if we go home at 9 or we stay till midnight.
We will do that,
Are they at
Councilor. Is there
5:30?
sorry, Councilor?
They're starting at 5:30?
So we had suggested starting at 5:30. I know that you had responded that one meeting you would be
Just one,
6. And any other suggestions from the council are welcome if you want to have a cap on the time.
6 to 9.
6, to
I
9?
support that.
6?
6 to 9,
I support that.
Counselor in seat 2?
even if we need an extra meeting.
You agree? 6 to 9. Counselor in seat 3?
Yeah, this is aside from that, I'm fine with the 6 to 9, that's great. Just two things that are in my mind. One being, are we going to have a city council meeting scheduled in the event action is taken, so it can be referred to city council immediately afterwards for a vote, so it makes it official? That's my first question. My second question is, do we have or can we get an opinion from corporate counsel that if we take any action that is considered action according to the city charter, does the clock stop? It's a 45-day clock if we don't take action. If we do take action, does the clock stop? With that, I yield, because that was a problem, as we all know, last year.
Agreed, Counselor. So I did present dates to the city clerk that work for all of you, and I was looking at last year's memorandum where it was split by department. It went until 9:15 each evening, and only the last meeting had a special meeting of the council after it, if it was needed to vote. So we could do that on each meeting if necessary, in case we were ready to take a vote in full council. So the clerks will, as soon as Council Vice President and I separate the departments per evening, you'll have the schedule as soon as possible. Does that sound good?
Oh, we're not doing it all at one night?
You want to do it all at one night? 6 to
No, just kidding.
3 in the morning? Councilor Kadim's going to provide dinner.
That's the president's job.
Yep, motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned made by Councilor Camara,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Reposo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?